purchase Bitcoin and some of their larger mutual funds and to purchase Bitcoin futures. So, you could be a Bitcoin realist. You don't have to be an evangelist to see that there's way more demand for Bitcoin than there is supply.
Bitcoin meets every one of those metrics and frankly meets it better than gold. But I think gold, there's a cultural tie to gold that I think we'll maintain for years to come.
And I think you have constant news stories, Scott, that are positive about Bitcoin, positive about the ecosystem, positive about adoption. It is a country that is accepting Bitcoin now as legal tender. Facebook, is now thinking about ending Libra using Bitcoin. Square, Bitcoin. PayPal, Bitcoin. You can build this case that there's more good news about Bitcoin in the last 12 months than at any time in the history of Bitcoin in terms of where Bitcoin is going.
It's $800 billion total market cap. I was thinking that when I spoke, but I see it going up over $1 trillion, and it could easily trade $100,000 per coin.
The word Bitcoin, 125 million users, scaling to 1 billion users, the word itself has value. The same way the URL cars.com has value or amazon.com has value. These are locations where a network exists, and in Bitcoin's case, it's a store of value network or a monetary network. And on its own, that in itself is quite valuable.
And I think that trend will continue to happen. It's just again, the portability, the impregnability of the blockchain in terms of the transfer accuracy, all of those features that we like when we think historically about what money actually is or what a store of value is. Bitcoin meets every one of those metrics and frankly meets it better than gold. But I think gold, there's a cultural tie to gold that I think we'll maintain for years to come.
Right. Remember, Bezos himself, he's gotten to where he is by recognizing that there's volatility to the network. 8 times Amazon dropped more than 50%. And that'll likely be true with Bitcoin. You could be at a $500,000 coin descending to 300,000. You and I will be on a podcast and people will be saying poo-poo, Bitcoin went from 500 to 300. And I'll be like, okay, yeah, but I bought it at 30, okay? And it's now at 300. And it'll likely get to 600 if you're patient. So to me, I think it's a complicated thing, but it requires a lot of discipline, and it requires a understanding of the macro dynamics of where the future is, irrespective of the current fears and uncertainties.
Market intel out there is that there are many corporations that are thinking about adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. And there are institutional investors like BlackRock. BlackRock has already signaled last month that they gave approval to purchase Bitcoin and some of their larger mutual funds and to purchase Bitcoin futures. So, you could be a Bitcoin realist. You don't have to be an evangelist to see that there's way more demand for Bitcoin than there is supply.
It's July 2020, and I'm predicting July 2021. Well, let me get invited back. Hopefully you'll invite me back 1 year from now, and these coins will likely be close to $100,000 a coin. And you'll be like, okay, why did I miss that 2-3 to 1 bump? Well, I missed it because people were telling me that I would be the stupid one. I'd be the last person into the story. Excuse me, if you remember, that was Amazon. Amazon has gone from a $10,000 investment on its IPO to $21,140,000 today. I want you to think of the magnitude of that. If you had just the strength to buy Amazon in 97, $10,000, now worth $21 million today.
And so weirdly, that's the reason why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, because if we're correct and this decentralization of money comes into play and is completely unaffected by policymakers, it'll start to standardize money again, and that will be better for the working poor and the middle class.
Bitcoiners know that if they have dollar-denominated assets, they've been taxed by their central bank. If I'm sitting there, I have $10,000 in my checking account, well, it's got less purchasing power here in 2021 than it did in 2020. I've been silently taxed by my central bank.
Interest rates are the financial gravity of financial assets. The lower they are, the higher the asset prices are. And so that is affecting Bitcoin. It's pushing Bitcoin up because I predict that someday your net worth is going to be measured in Bitcoins. It's going to be less off of fiat currencies because of all the massive manipulation that's happened there.
This is a great asset, and this is an asset that is arcing pursuant to Metcalfe's law, and a result of which it'll be several $100,000 a coin, and I want my clients to be exposed. If you're aggressive, I'm going to say 8%. If I will tell you this, you're foolish at 0%. So to me, it goes from foolish 0% exposure to Bitcoin to aggressive 8% exposure. If you're Brett Messing, you're at 95% exposure, some of these other people, and they are true believers, and they're in that Buffett category or that Bezos category where they've decided that this is where they're going to put their eggs and they're going to watch the basket. And you gotta accept the volatility.
It's quite possible, unless you tell me tonight that the U.S. dollar is going to standardize, digitize, and is no longer going to be influenced by politicians and policymakers. If they made that decision tonight, and I will tell you this, they better move quickly because Bitcoin at $1.1 trillion in market cap, as it ascends, it'll be harder to compete with Bitcoin because of that decentralized faculty. But it is quite possible, yes, unless there's a sea change in the way people think about fiat currency.
You have 9% exposure to Bitcoin. Yeah, but I started at 5%. I mean, my point being is I'm not going to sell Bitcoin just because it's doing well. I'm going to hold Bitcoin until it reaches our near-term to long-term price targets. And people are upset about that. They will sell out the Bitcoin. And then if I'm right, they're going to look back and say, well, geez, that was a mistake. Why did I do that? My point is, at 5% exposure, I'm in a situation, Scott, where 5% exposure doesn't destroy me if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, and this thing goes 3-4 to 1, it's going to have a magnificent effect on the portfolio.
There are too many countries that are interested in Bitcoin, including El Salvador. Small country, but let's face it, they're using it for their fiat currency now.
I think if it sustains itself over $1 trillion in market cap, and you could see that it had reached escape velocity, and to what Plan B talks about is stock to flow model, it's the supply has tightened and the demand is robust, then yes, I think people will start adopting it. In fact, Bitcoin is growing faster than Amazon, Facebook, Google. It's adopting, it's pacing the internet in terms of its adoption. If you think about the internet's move from 1995 and the introduction of Netscape to 2007, that 12-year move, Bitcoin is moving faster and there's more adoption of Bitcoin than there was the internet.
It's very fungible. It trades in a liquid manner. It trades in a millisecond, and it is scaling. Over 100 million people are using Bitcoin today. Very likely that 1 billion people will be using it in 5 years. As everybody on this presentation knows, there's only 18 million coins, 21 million in total, 3 million of which have been lost, and there's a few million coins left to be mined. So it's a fairly scarce asset. And I think this is the reason why you're seeing such an upward pull on price.